So what is this grandstanding about? Do you think we should have let the Ayatollah in place? Do you think he was a good guy? Are you defending the Ayatollah now? Or aren't you glad that America finally stood up and took care of this murderous regime that's been sponsoring terror around the world for 47 years? And you want to say he's playing politics and you get the politics behind it, Mr. Peters? You guys are playing politics. You guys are the ones that are grandstanding. The president's doing his job as commander-in-chief.
Congressional hearings usually follow a familiar pattern. But every once in a while, a congressman steps in and turns the conversation into something much bigger. A confrontation about national security, presidential authority, and political hypocrisy. That's exactly what happened when Senator Markwayne Mullin delivered a fiery response to Democrats criticizing Donald Trump over his actions toward Iran. What followed quickly turned into a broader clash over war powers, past military interventions, and whether critics of the president were applying a double standard. Watch the exchange.
Senator Mullin. Thank you, Chairman. I just feel like I need to respond to some things the senator was bringing up by accusing the president of pulling out of a nuclear deal in his first term. It was a horrible deal. It was a disastrous deal. It was a deal that we all know that would originally allow Iran to be able to have enrichment to the grade that they could make a nuclear weapon. And then for the senator that was saying that the president needs to come back for reauthorization, I don't remember him saying anything in 2016 when Barack Obama at the time dropped 26,000 bombs in Syria, Pakistan, Libya, just to name a few. And I definitely don't remember my colleagues in 2013 at all complaining about the president then Barack Obama, going into Syria. And I would like to ask the question then, what threat did Syria have to the United States? What threat did Libya have to the United States during the Arab Spring to which these leaders were removed? And then I would ask the question, what threat did Iran have to us? Do we really need to talk about it? Do we need to talk about how many times they've killed thousands of Americans since 1979? From the first time they took hostages in November of 1979 to the last time they attacked us in June of 2025? And anybody wants to doubt that they were a threat to us, an essential threat to us? Does anybody doubt on that side of the aisle, does anybody doubt that Iran, if or when they got a nuclear weapon, would deliver it to the United States if they have capability of doing it? Does anybody deny that the fact that the president was being proactive on an adversary that has been chanting death to America since 1979? Does anybody deny that Iran was a threat to us and our service members? Or do we have to remind you how many they've injured and killed through their proxies and through direct action? This is the first president in 7 presidencies that actually did something about the thorn that constantly came after us. And now you criticizing and you say it's illegal? It's not. This same authorization is the same authorization that Democrats and Republican presidents in the past have used. And thank God we had a president with a backbone to finally get rid of this murderous regime. And now we're complaining about it? Remember, legally, he has to respond to Congress or inform Congress in 48 hours. That has happened. And then within 60 to 90 days, he needs to inform Congress if we're going to war and ask for specific war authorities. But the president, through Article 2, clearly has an obligation and the powers under the Constitution to defend our interest home and abroad. And there is no question he's defending our interest. No question. So what is this grandstanding about? Do you think we should have let the Ayatollah in place? Do you think he was a good guy? Are you defending the Ayatollah now? Or aren't you glad that America finally stood up and took care of this murderous regime that's been sponsoring terror around the world for 47 years? How about we say thank you, Mr. President, for finally getting rid of this nuisance, this murderer, this sponsor of terror. He did the world a favor, and the world is a safer place because of it. You may disagree with a lot of his actions. You may disagree with some of his policies, but you can't deny that this was a threat and an essential growing threat to the United States.
The confrontation began after Democrats accused the president of acting improperly in his approach to Iran. Several Democrats have argued that recent U.S. military actions in Iran were illegal or unconstitutional because Congress had not formally authorized them. But Senator Mullin strongly pushed back on that argument. He responded to what he described as accusations that the president acted recklessly when he withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action during his first term. In Mullin's view, the agreement itself was deeply flawed. The deal, negotiated during the presidency of Barack Obama, was designed to limit Iran's nuclear program 78 in exchange for sanctions relief. Supporters believed it would prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Mullin argued the opposite, that it merely delayed the problem while still allowing Iran to continue uranium enrichment that could eventually lead to a nuclear weapon. So when the United States withdrew from the deal, Mullin framed the decision not as reckless, but as necessary. But his argument didn't stop there. The senator then turned the focus back on Democrats themselves. If lawmakers were now insisting that presidents must return to Congress before using military force, Mullin asked, where were those concerns during the Obama administration? During that period, the United States carried out thousands of airstrikes and military operations across parts of the Middle East. According to Mullin, Democrats had remained largely silent when those operations expanded into places like Syria, Libya, and Pakistan. That contrast, he argued, revealed a political double standard. In his words, lawmakers who were now demanding congressional reauthorization had said little when earlier administrations launched extensive military campaigns in the region. And then Mullin raised an even broader point. He pointed to decades of hostility between Iran's government and the United States. Since the Iran hostage crisis, tensions between the two countries have remained high, with Iran often accused by U.S. officials of supporting militant groups across the Middle East. He asked colleagues whether anyone truly believed Iran would hesitate to harm the United States if it gained nuclear weapons capability. The lawmaker stated that presidents before Trump had avoided confronting the issue directly, and the Trump administration was the first in decades to take decisive action against what he described as a long-standing threat. Now, under the War Powers Resolution, presidents are required to notify Congress within 48 hours after introducing U.S. forces into hostilities. They must then seek additional authorization if military operations extend beyond a certain time frame. According to Mullin, those requirements had been followed. He pointed to the president's authority under Article 2 of the Constitution, which gives the commander-in-chief the power to act in defense of U.S. interests and American personnel abroad. From his perspective, that authority clearly applied in the case of Iran. So instead of condemning the president, Mullin suggested that Congress should commend what he saw as a decisive move against a government that has long opposed the United States. In his words, the president had taken action against a regime that had been sponsoring terrorism for decades. And that, he argued, made the world safer. By the time Mullin finished speaking, the hearing had clearly shifted from a technical discussion about war powers into a broader political clash. At its core, the argument came down to two competing views. Critics say military action against Iran without explicit congressional authorization risks dragging the United States into another conflict in the Middle East. And others argue that the president has both the authority and the responsibility to act quickly when national security threats emerge. And Senator Mullin made it clear which side he stood on. To him, the real issue wasn't whether the president acted. It was whether critics were applying the same standards to every administration, or only when it was politically convenient. So what do you think? Was Senator Mullin right to call out what he sees as a double standard? Or should Congress have a stronger role before any president takes military action abroad? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy watching moments like these that reveal the deeper debates happening inside Washington, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And as always, you decide.